The landscape in Indiana plays a significant role in the identity of Hoosiers, especially the 20-mile stretch of the White River that flows through Madison County. Its beautiful geography has a rich history that many people use to connect with nature and for spiritual reflection.
Mound State Park is a very small park. We're the second smallest Indiana state park with only 290 acres. And so when we look at the land today, we know that we have over 350 ephemeral blooming wildflowers every year. We know down by the river there are several hundred-year-old oak trees. We have this very unique hanging wetland feature that provides an area for certain plants and animals to grow that really don't exist hardly anywhere else in the state of Indiana. We also have our history component. The history here was very much an enigma all the way up until the early 90s. So the mounds that were built here were created by a people that we call the Adena culture, and then later the Hopewell cultures that used the location for ceremonies. What it provided them was a location where multiple groups of people could come together, celebrate births, deaths, and marriages. They traded, they talked, they discussed things that they had seen, and they came together for what we believe was a religious purpose. Modern Native American descendants feel that this place is like a church because these great earthworks were created by their ancestors and they knew that they were there for religious purposes. So we see them continually coming and utilizing this location as a place for prayer, as a place for reverence, as a place for awe and connection. Now, something else that these cultures very much utilized these mounds for and gave purpose for their use was the fact that they were aligned with the celestial bodies. So as you look up during the summer solstice or winter solstice, there is a direct alignment that we can visibly see as the sun both rises and sets. Most ancient peoples, they saw the sky as dynamic and the place where spirit was. And so I can only imagine with the alignments and the things that we know that these mounds were used to track, that they were there watching the theater that was unfolding in the sky. The Bronnenberg family moved here in 1821 and inhabited an abandoned trapper's cabin. Frederick Jr. and his son came to this current location, which is actually right on the brink of the earthworks. What we don't really understand and we don't have a lot of clarity on is what the Bronnenbergs saw or understood about the mounds. But what we do know is that when they were here, they gained a lifelong and family-long passion to protect the earthworks. The Bronnenberg family prescribed the Quaker faith. But later in time, a portion of the descendants of Fred Sr. established the American Spiritualist camp at Camp Chesterfield.
The beliefs of spiritualists basically come down to offering evidential information with the continuity of life after the transition of a person into spirit after death. Since the camp was founded, between 1886 and 1891, it's not really decided exactly because there was not a lot of documentation, but we do know that from 1883, the Westerfields, who were Anderson natives, were very interested in the Enlightenment period intelligentsia movement of the time, and they often had lectures in the pharmacy that was above their building that they owned in downtown Anderson. And they would go to Michigan, to Fraser's Grove, to a spiritualist camp. And one year when they were there, they did run into a number of Hoosier spiritualists, and they began talking, why doesn't Indiana have its own spiritualist camp? Mr. Westerfield decided that he would try to organize some sort of meeting. The first meeting had over 200 people attend, and 50 people actually joined as actual members. And among those people were the Bronnenbergs, because they were very much interested in spiritualism, and they wanted to be a part of this new association. By 1886, they were meeting rather regularly, and then in 1890, they had the first kind of camp picnic, which could be considered like a convention, where they would discuss the association and how it should be run, here on the grounds of the White River at Camp Chesterfield. Actual land of Camp Chesterfield, the natural area, the natural space, is what makes Camp Chesterfield so special. And I've heard this over and over when people visit for the very first time. Outside the gates, you feel a certain energy, and as soon as you pass through the gates, you feel a calmness, a sereneness, and you feel like you're in a sacred space. On the grounds of Camp Chesterfield, we have many landmark displays that have been developed over the whole time that Camp Chesterfield has been an actual spiritualist camp. So one of our main attractions is the Trail of Religions, which it doesn't represent all of the religions, but it does represent the world's major religions. And that is proof in itself that we accept the truths from all religious traditions, and we welcome anyone from any religious tradition to our grounds to worship and to experience Camp Chesterfield. And you can be a spiritualist and you can be any other religion in connection with that. And a good example, the early spiritualist church services, as they are today, are held in the afternoon because people would go to their real church in the morning, and then they would scurry off to a spiritualist camp to attend spiritualist services in the afternoon. In addition to the Trail of Religions, we have the Native American memorial statue, Chief Rising Sun, and this came to a person during seance that Camp Chesterfield needed to recognize and honor the Native Americans. So that memorial was built, and it's quite outstanding. And next to that, we have a totem pole. It was made, I believe, in the Pacific Northwest in Canada by a Native American tribe. Moving on, we have the solstice circle, and on the winter solstice, when the sun rises, it hits directly into a tree that's in the center of that solstice circle. So that is some indication that maybe the Native Americans did some type of construction on it, and then probably later spiritualists added things. And then we have what we call the toadstools here at Camp Chesterfield. In the early days, when we didn't have air conditioning, it was cooler to sit outside and to have readings. And oftentimes, after the medium passed into spirit, students would have their medium's name engraved on those tables. So it's a very interesting, unique part of Camp Chesterfield that probably I can say is not found anywhere else in the world. Camp Chesterfield's history is full of very important and influential women who, without their work and without their dedication, we wouldn't have Camp Chesterfield today. It has always been run by women, and it will always be run by women. I've lived my entire professional life in Japan, but I keep a home here in Camp Chesterfield, and I come back every chance I get because it is home. It's family. It's home to me. For me personally, sense of space just means where the heart is. So for me, coming back to Camp Chesterfield is coming home. In fact, we have a saying here at Camp Chesterfield: we'll leave the lights on as we finish every seminary and every week-long education, because our students have become family. Once they come here once, they are part of the Chesterfield family, and we welcome them back.
For centuries, individuals have utilized this Indiana landscape to contemplate and commune with the natural world, positively impacting their psychological and spiritual well-being, as well as bolstering their mental health and happiness. The communities who created these revered locations have established a lasting sense of place, ensuring that Indiana residents will always feel a connection to this region in Madison County.